Today I'm joined by Cllr Matthew Green. He's Cabinet Member for Business and Planning at the City of Westminster. And Westminster, of course, is a powerful driver of London's economy, and the council has the tricky task of balancing the interests of businesses, visitors and residents. And the Mayor's Streetspace programme will play an important role in keeping central London moving. And so I want to ask you, Cllr Green, can you give me an update how Westminster has been responding to the strategy to improve conditions for pedestrians and cyclists in the borough?
Absolutely, Peter. Let me start off by saying it's not just the Mayor's street space programme that's providing additional pedestrian spaces across Westminster. In Westminster already, we've provided 19,000 square metres of additional footway space. And for those who've been into the centre of London know that non-essential, so-called non-essential retail has reopened on Monday. You'll see across Oxford Street, Regent Street, Piccadilly and other parts of our city, we have extended our footways to above 3 metres, and that's a way of giving people the confidence that they need to return to the centre of London and to visit those non-essential shops. I think it's really important, as you said at the beginning, that Westminster is the economic heart of the country. The West End itself generates 3% of the GDP of the UK, not just of London, but of the entire country. So it's really important that we reopen the West End safely and give people that confidence.
Good. So as a key part of the businesses in Westminster, restaurants having a really hard time at the moment, and there seems to be a lot of support for the idea of putting tables in streets to allow for social distancing. What are the issues behind delivering that?
Well, we recently announced our proposals yesterday, and probably if you saw the front page of yesterday's Evening Standard, you'll have seen that we are making proposals to help our world famous pubs, clubs, bars and restaurants to bounce back. We have 3,700 licensed premises in Westminster. Businesses have been telling me that without additional space outside, they're going to struggle to survive given the current social distancing rules. So it's really important that we find a way to transform large parts of our city, especially the centre areas of Covent Garden, Soho, Marylebone and Mayfair, and that we create some kind of outdoor continental style dining spaces. And this again, as I said, in terms of the footway extensions, is all about safety. So by extending pavement space, and in some cases, introducing timed closures of certain streets, this will help people to have the confidence again that they need to return to the West End and Westminster in safety. All these measures are temporary, and as well as talking to businesses, I talk very regularly to, given that planning is an important element for residents, I talk very regularly to residents groups, and I firmly believe that the vast majority of Westminster's residents appreciate that without these interventions, like the alfresco dining that we're proposing, that many hospitality businesses would face a very bleak future. That said, our proposals are absolutely not set in stone. We very much made our first phase of our movement strategy temporary, so a lot of the barriers that you'll have seen in the centre of London are not particularly attractive, especially up against Nash's beautiful facades on Regent Street, but they're green temporary barriers, and they're there very deliberately so that we can make changes as we need to. That will be the same for the support that we will be giving the hospitality industry. And at the moment, we're asking local councillors to consult with those residents groups and to get their views on them. And let me be very clear here that if there are any schemes that we've proposed that residents don't like, we're more than happy to look at them again, to amend them if necessary, or even to take them out.
And if they work, might they become permanent?
I think it's difficult to say that they're going to be permanent at this stage. We, at the moment, what our plans are to help the hospitality industry to get back on its feet over the summer period. And I think that to make them a more permanent feature would have a negative impact on residents, and probably that would be unsustainable. I think what we would need to do as we return to normality is try and support businesses and try and find a way for them to continue to trade better indoors. And a lot of that will depend on what the new guidelines are for social distancing as we move forward. We're trying to support businesses as well through our Shop Local campaign, which, as the hospitality industry reopens, is likely to become an Eat Local campaign as well. So on our website, we have a full section about the reopening of Westminster, and that includes a map of the businesses that are currently open, not just those who are whose doors are physically open, but those who have delivery or takeaway services, or those who have some form of online presence. I think, though, that one of the things that residents and businesses have been telling me is how much they appreciate the improvement in our air quality across the city at the moment. So I do think that we face some, we have some opportunities as well as challenges, and that may not be a full scale alfresco dining experience across the West End. I mean, we're not really used to alfresco dining. We don't even have a word for it in English. But I do think there are opportunities for us to look at ways of reducing the number of goods vehicle trips that there are across London. The vast majority of vehicles coming into the centre of London are goods vehicles, and I think we have the opportunity really now once and for all to improve supply chains, to expand freight consolidation, and to reduce servicing. I think a figure that I've said many times is that at the moment is that Westminster has 54 waste collectors. Actually, that's wrong, because we recently did a count and a new count, and we actually have 65 waste collectors across the whole of Westminster, whereas in cities like New York, they have a handful, they have 2 or 3, and we would like to see that reduced. And I think that by extending the pavement spaces, both to allow social distancing while shopping, and also for the hospitality industry to expand, that this gives us this opportunity to look once and for all at goods vehicles trips and try and get them down, and really find a way of having a long-term improvement to our air quality and helping us meet our climate change objectives. The City of Westminster declared a climate emergency last year, and we have pledged to make the city carbon neutral by 2040.
Thank you. Now, residents of Fitzrovia have made a call to both Westminster and Camden to cooperate to make the area a low traffic neighbourhood, which is another of the aspects of the changes, temporary changes that can take place at the moment. So do you support the idea of these areas?
I absolutely, as I said, I absolutely support the idea of reducing the amount of vehicles coming into our city. I think that, as I said, on a normal day, and there haven't been many normal days for a while, that those vehicles coming in would be for goods vehicle trips. Obviously, at the moment, given that we are expecting a reduction in the number of people taking public transport, we think obviously more people will be travelling around on foot or by bicycle, but also in their own personal cars. So at the moment, we do need to be able to allow people to drive into Westminster, and although, of course, a lot of the schemes that we put forward have meant that we've had to reduce a number of our parking spaces. So yeah, let's absolutely work to find a way of reducing goods vehicles across the whole of central London. And I have regular calls with my opposite number in Camden. The business improvement districts, which straddle the 2 boroughs, also talk to each other regularly. So it's something that we do need to cooperate on, and I'm very, very much ready to do that.
And do you worry, perhaps in the longer term, about the economy of central areas in the light of the possibility of many more people working from home, and that impacting on the economy of central London? What impact do you think that's going to have in your view?
Well, clearly there are going to be some impact. Well, already we've seen economic impacts of the coronavirus hitting our city extremely hard, and we know full well that there's likely to be a trend to work from home, and that's going to have an impact on the city. But what it means is what all these changes always mean is that we as a city need to evolve and to adapt. So obviously a work from home trend is going to be a concern for those businesses who are dependent on the volume of workers who commute into central London, especially people who are popping out for a sandwich at lunchtime, those cafes, those bars and restaurants that people flock to after a day at work. And also, if businesses do seek to reduce office space over time, that could mean that landlords find it harder to re-let vacant office space, and that could put some downward pressure on commercial rents. We're obviously our view at the moment is to wait and see what happens, but we will find a way of evolving and adapting. And I think it was Dr. Johnson said that to be tired of London is to be tired of life. I think that even though we may see this this downward trend in terms of people commuting into central London, I do think people will want the bustle of the city, hoping that bustle returns. We have a world-class entertainment district. Our pubs, bars, restaurants, they're world famous. We have nearly 4,000 of them, and I think that that's still going to be a draw for people. I think a lot of the surveys have shown that while people are going to want to work from home more often, they're not necessarily going to want to work from home 5 days a week. So hopefully that means that people will still be coming into offices in central London, and that they will be using our world-class restaurants and our world-class hospitality industry.
Very good. Well, let's hope so. So, Councillor Green, thank you very much for your insights, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.